Yeah, hello all. Thanks for joining. Good evening. So let's continue with the demo. And yeah, today is a demo session and it will be uploaded in the YouTube channel. And can you guys see the screen and can hear me? Please confirm in the chat. Manikanta or Patel, anyone? Can you see the screen? Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you for confirming. So let's continue and let people join. Uh, yeah, it's already time. Better, let's continue. Okay, so yeah, so today is the day two of the demo batch. Sorry, demo session of this Linux batch 391. Okay, so once again, let me go through quickly this general information. So the first three sessions, which is including tomorrow, okay, so it will be for free. And from Monday, it will be only for the paid candidates. Okay, so there will be a new Zoom link will be sent and kindly join through that if you are fine with my way of training, and it will be purely practical. Obviously first few sessions will be theory and it's a necessity, right? So you must know this theory, then only you can understand at least, right? So yeah, from afterwards then it will be purely commands and all the topics will be discussing. We won't skip any topics. Okay, and yeah, so the first two sessions, which is yesterday's session, will be already in the YouTube channel, and today's session also will be uploaded. Okay, and please don't do any batch shifting. Also, there is no refund. And the sessions update, like if I'm not available on a such any day or any recording issue or something, right? So everything will be posted in the WhatsApp community if you are not part of it already. So just click on, sorry, go to this link and join. Okay, so yeah, this is the WhatsApp community channel link. And the Graphy, yesterday itself, we did saw the Graphy portal. And kindly reach out to the support team only during this time. The working hours is like 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. from Monday to Saturday. Okay, and these are all the support contact details. Obviously, through the mail you can drop, and if you really want to connect via phone, you can call through these numbers. Okay, so let's move on to the actual session. So we will see this banner at the last. And yeah, so before going to the booting process, let me quickly show you which one to be downloaded. So yesterday itself we did discuss, but well, let me show you once again. So just type bit.ly slash Linux LL1. So let me give that in the chat. It's an URL shortener. Okay, so this will redirect you to my drive, Google Drive, which has all the resources for our batch. Okay, and please do download this only if you are fine with installing in your machine the labs. Okay, if you are not willing to do that also, it's fine. You can, or I will show you how to do via AWS. Obviously, not today. There won't be time, but from in today, sorry, in tomorrow session, we will be discussing how to install or initiate your mission via AWS and GCP. Okay, and Azure only for students like student pass or student ID card only. There is a free version, so better avoid it. Okay, so my first suggestion would be to install in your own machine. If you're if you can't, or if you're obviously you will have the hardware. The system requirement is very easy and straightforward. So as I mentioned yesterday, so you must have one free CPU core. Okay, so what is free CPU core? Let me explain. So just go to your task manager. Okay, click on the second one, performance. Click on CPU, and you'll see the core count. Okay, so here you see 6. And if you are having hard time going through task manager, go to Windows and R. If you press, it will open the run. Okay, just type here ms info 32. So this will bring your system information. And here you can even see clear how much RAM you have, how much CPU count. You see, 6 cores, 12 logical processor. So logical processor, you can ignore that, but the core count is very, very important. We need at least one. Okay, so which means one. Sorry, here it should be at least two. Okay, so two, 4, 6, 8, 12, anything is fine, but at least two should be there. Obviously, everyone will satisfy this first point, but the second one is the important one. At least 1 gig of memory is needed. Okay, so 1 gig of free memory is needed. Again, everyone might have obviously 8 gigs of memory, so that is also will be satisfied, and 20 gigs of disk space. So again, this obviously everyone will have, and that's it. So this is the basic requirement for your system, and there is no need for GPU or something, right? So it's a very basic system, and there is a GUI version only we are going to install. And what is GUI full form? Can someone put it in the chat? Let's see if you remember it. What is the full form of GUI? Does anyone remember it? And it can be wrong, guys. There is no harm in it because it's not some test or something. Perfect. Yeah. Yeah, everyone got it right. Exactly. So graphical user interface. And yeah, we are going to use a GUI version of RHEL. So again, RHEL is a Red Hat Enterprise Linux version 8.4 I'm going to install. And the latest one is 9.4. Is there any difference, major difference? No. Is there any minor or a like granular changes only is there, especially in UI. And we are not, obviously, UI is what we are going to install, GUI, but we are going to use CLI version because in your work environment, CLI version is what preferred. So we will be using that, but we will be installing GUI. So it will be a bit, as of now, you might be confused how that works. So we will see anyhow. So yeah, that's the basic agenda of the installation part. So please do download. If you're fine with downloading in your machine, just download these two files. Again, don't select both at the same time and download. Why? Because if you do so, just right click and download. It will try to create a zip. Okay, so if you select more than one file, so just right click, sorry, right click in each separately, you should download. Now it will initiate the download like that. Okay, so yeah, if you click on download anyway, it will start downloading. Okay. So let me cancel it. So like that, you should download individually because zipping a huge file, it's around 10 gigs, right? It will take some time and it might even fail. So please don't do that. Download individually these two files. And all these documents are supported, are supporting documents. So because like, let's say you are having hard time with my recording, but you are fine with the way the steps are already mentioned here. Okay, so how to install. So anyhow, tomorrow session we'll go through this. Okay, and yeah, so if you are having hard time downloading this ISO, you can download from the official link also. So just type rel 9. So rel 9 ISO. Okay, you see the very first link will be the official one, or you can go to the second. Both will be the same. But one issue is if you're trying to download from the official Red Hat portal, you must create a login. Okay. So yeah, the very first one. Yeah, so you should create a login. Then only you can use it. Okay. But yeah, if you're downloading from my drive, it's an official one only. But it's an old version. Okay. But it's fine. There is no harm in it, and company still uses RHEL 8 only. So no need to worry. Okay. So if you're having hard time downloading this, you can try this one, this link. Okay. Or you can go through this BitTorrent. So for the people who are new to torrent, the torrent is a peer-to-peer connection, okay, or downloading tool. So yeah, it's a torrent client. It is called as, and Um, yeah. So, yeah. So the torrent. Yeah. Qubit torrent. Just a second. Okay. So this is the torrent client. So this is what I included in here. Okay. So once you install this Qubit torrent and download this second file. And this is for the people who are having hard time downloading this ISO because since it is huge in size, if your download is stuck at let's say 90%, again from the zero it will start. Okay, so let's say it is terminated or something. So again from first you need to download and again it's a huge in size, right? So if you are not having a stable network, obviously go via this torrent method because you can pause at any time. You can pause and resume. Okay, so let me download this method. Right click, download, and let it download. Yeah, so just click on it. Okay, so I have uTorrent. Yeah, so this is the torrent, right? So you just uncheck these and so let me Qubit. Yeah, so you can uncheck or you can download everything. That's fine. Okay, but this is the official one, 9.43 gigs, exactly the same size, 9.43, because both are same only. Okay, so the just the way the file is bundled is different. Here it is called as ISO, the extension. Here it is dot torrent. Okay, so why I'm asking you to download via this method if you're having hard time is you can pause at any time. Let's say your internet is literally very slow. So you just click on pause. It should pause and at any time you can resume it. Okay, so that's the reason. Okay, so once you're downloaded, in tomorrow's session, I'll be showing the installation part. But before going through all these, why we are going to install VMware? Firstly, what is VMware? So we need to know the horizon of that because again, VMware must be intervened with Linux at any time, right? So this is the right time to introduce you to the virtualization. Okay, so now what is virtualization? For that, let me open the paint and explain it here. Okay, so firstly, in those days, like in the early stages of not personal computer, in the enterprise. So enterprise or the server grade computers, right? So let's say for military or government official, any like let's say government building, right? So those got the very first hand of all the servers, right? So the servers were introduced for those services. Then only it is commercialized, and even personal computers are there is a huge rise in that. But before that, only government officials or only they had access to these are the huge MNC companies, right? So in those days, what was the issue is, let's say you are having a computer and you are using that computer dedicatedly for some software. Let's say that there is a so previously the very famous tool was Tally, right? So Tally, there used to be a certain servers, and there used to be some database, right? So database or like that. Each server used to do only one task. Why? Because those days the system resource. So what are all the list of system resources? Can someone put it in the chat? What is system resources list? The first one, let me fill. Yes. CPU. Yes. It's around 5. Disk. Perfect. Network and memory. Right? Exactly. So perfect, Manikanda and Vasanth. So yeah, that's the system resources, and they do like we literally take it for granted these days, right? Because even in Android phones or even in any small device itself, the RAM is or the memory is too high. But in those days, it was like the 1 gig itself is a huge thing, right? So, and it's costly. That's the most important thing. The money factor is too volatile in those days. The prices were sky high, right? So the thing is that each system can afford only one application. So that's fine. But let's say there is a business hours of 9 to 5, right? So after 9 to 5, let's say you are going to run some backup of the data, whatever you done for the day, business day, you need to back up it. So, but that backup tool can't run. You're getting the point, right? So that has, let's take a scenario that need a new operating system or a different operating system. So this Tally or some other tool is running on Windows, but that backup tool must be run on Linux, let's say, right? So there is an issue now. So because Windows and Linux can't go together in the single machine because all the system resources are already installed and can afford only one application or one OS on top of that one application. So now is where we are going to see the virtualization. So there is a base OS. Okay. Firstly, the base OS is what we have now. It is Windows 10 or 11. Either way, it is this one. And on top of that, you are going to install VMware. So what is VMware? Firstly, VMware is just another MNC. Okay, like your Red Hat, they pioneered something. Actually, Red Hat didn't pioneer anything, but they commercialized or they literally made a stable version of Linux, right? So Red Hat, but whereas VMware, they created a virtual, uh, they created a tool which does a very good job of virtualization, and they pioneered, and it's almost like a Docker these days. So Docker and why I brought Docker also I will explain in a moment, but that's what VMware done like in the late 90s. Okay. So they literally created a virtual environment for these. So the system resources you have, right? It's a physical thing. So physically you should have CPU of, let's say, 2 CPUs in now, 2 cores. Okay. So now in after VMware, here I'm going to do one important thing called as system resource sharing. So the sharing is an important term. Okay, so what it does, so it will create CPU and it is called as vCPU or virtual CPU. And here one core will be allocated. Again, it's not from thin air or uh, not some weird thing. It's from the physical. Physically, you have 2 core. From that, you allocating one core for your VMware. Why? Because I need to run a different operating system altogether. And what was the other method, right? Actually, if you want to ignore VMware, you can run Linux, but you can't simultaneously run Linux and Windows, right? So I'm just giving an example. So obviously there are so many operating systems, but these two doesn't go together, right? Both are different in many ways. So that's the reason. I took this example. So basically, you want to run Windows as well as Linux and some applications related to those operating systems. So now you're going to share the system resources in your machine, right? So VMware is a middleman who does that job well, right? So virtually you're going to do it. And the other method is your dual boot. So how does dual boot works? So you're exactly the same way, but you can't boot to the same OS, or there are two operating systems, but you can boot to only one. Okay? So either Windows or Linux. So both can't go together. Obviously, it will be under the same disk. Okay, but it can't boot both at the same time. So that's the reason we are having VMware. Okay, so again, VMware is not they are the early player, but nowadays there are so many tools like Nutanix is there, um, Vagrant, right? So your Oracle VirtualBox, which is an open source. Sorry, it's a closed source, but it's available for free, right? So and again VMware and what else? Many are there, right? So that's what. So the point is, on top of this one, you are going to install any software. Let's take a HTTP web server, HTTP server. You're going to install this on top of this VM. Either you can simply install this, no, right? What is needed? Your operating system is needed, right? Without that VMware, there is no use of VMware, right? Even VMware has their own operating system, which we will come later. Come to that. It is ESXi. That is a different topic, but the point is we need to install RHEL. So that's what we will do here. So your VMware workstation. So this is the same. I have Windows based machine, this one, right? On top of that, I installed VMware workstation. On top of that, I'm installing a operating system. Inside this OS, I'm going to do what? I'm going to install HTTP. Okay, so that's the hierarchy structure. Okay, so RHEL or any version, it can be RHEL operating system. Okay, again, still you are using the shared resource only, not the original one. Okay, only the shared one. And is it scalable? Yes. So now what is the term called as scalable is anytime you want, you can increase this core count. So that's the best thing, right? So let's say you ran out of hardware. Obviously, you can change it here. You must change it here. Then only it can be reflected in the virtual environment. But it will be easily or it will be seamless. You need not wait that okay, let it update and let me do this after a week so that there should not be any compatibility issue or nothing. Just like that, once you have a new hardware, immediately it will be detected in the VMware. Okay, so that's the thing. On top of this, you install HTTP. You're getting the point, right? So this is the application layer. Okay, so this is the OS layer. Like that, you can even segregate based on layers. Fine. So this OS is a virtual OS. Okay. So why I'm calling it as virtual? Because anytime I can scrap this one and I can create a new one. There is no uh, issue. Whereas here in a dual boot, so this is called as dual boot, and there is even triple boot. Okay. So dual boot means how you can scrap this one. Basically, you need to remove entire disk from here. Still, you need to partition this. You need to expand this windows to the whole thing, and it's a huge process. Dual boot means. Whereas here it is seamless. Even now, I can remove this. Just right click, manage, delete. That's it. It will literally remove from my machine within seconds. Okay, so that's how convenient your virtualization is. So virtualization, the most important term here is called a system resource sharing. Okay, not only CPU. So I just mentioned for an example CPU, you're going to use memory, GPU also, right? Disks, obviously disk is needed, network. Okay, so network and obviously memory. Everything will be used in the virtual environment. So this is fine, right? So why there is a need for containerization or why there is an emerging containers? So you might have heard Docker, Kubernetes, or even in LinkedIn. Let's say it's not used in your company, but let's say you're searching for a new job. You might have heard or obviously came across a term called as containers, Docker, or Podman, or any such tools. What is the use of that, and why there is a need for a new tool? Because even now, virtualization is there and it's been used widely spread across any company from the startup to the huge MNCs, they still use it. But where it is lacking, let me explain. So virtualization, it solved an issue that if you are running an only one application on a mission, you're efficiently using that while so let's say it is having 8 cores. So only 2 cores is used by this some tool, let's say Tableau, right? So Tableau tool is using only uh, let's say 2 core. Okay, the remaining 6 cores are free. So I can effectively use that into some other tools, right? So which are only CPU dependent. Or if I have memory, I can even allocate that. You're getting the point, right? So effectively, I'm going to use my resources. But this OS layer is an issue because we are literally running a fully fledged OS. So that needs much more CPU, memory, GPU, disk, network. All the resources are huge in size or it's needed at least, right? So a minimum requirement must be there for your rel, whereas that is literally omitted in your containers. How it works, let me explain. And who pioneered containers? And it's a bit controversial one. Why? Because containers are been around quite some time, but the terminology was not there. So Google actually had an internal project or in-house tool similar to Kubernetes before, and they didn't release it to the public, right? So that was there. But the one who pioneered and it's been like widely used is Docker. Okay, so Docker and even Kubernetes nowadays. So yeah, so base OS is again same Windows machine only, Windows 10 or 11, it doesn't matter. But here, the resource sharing itself is not there. Directly, you're going to install Docker. So see here also we install VMware, right? So here it is Docker for Windows, let's say. Now is the important part. So here you have an OS layer, right? So here you are going to use Docker engine. So now that's a new one. And how does that work? Let me explain. Um, yeah, Docker engine, right? So the purpose of Docker engine is whatever software or image. So here it is called as container image or Docker container image. Okay. So from where you're going to fetch it. So you just go to this link hub.docker.com. Again, I'm giving just a Docker example. You even Red Hat has their own catalog of images, this container images. Okay. So this is Docker container image. So you see Docker official image. Click on it. And yeah, so you see only the official ones. Nginx, BusyBox, Alpine. So Alpine is one of the very famous one or famous image. Why? Because you see the size of it, just 5 MB, guys, and it's a Linux image. So basically, instead of downloading this 10 gigs, you can simply use this Alpine. You're getting the point, right? So if you just do Docker pull Alpine, right? So basically, it is almost same as rel 8.4. So instead of 10 gigs, you can simply use this 5 MB, not even gigs, just 5 MB it is, right? So that's the potential of your image. So that's the reason companies shift from virtualization to container. And it's not, and the best practice is combining both. But the point is, it's not an uh, like an end-to-end transition. Obviously, they will need virtualization, and it will be there forever again, right? So there is not a competitor for virtualization, but containers are useful and effective. Why? Because this Docker engine is a very powerful one, which will literally uh, like convert. You, just for your understanding, I'm giving a term called as convert, but it will basically does what this OS is doing. So basically, directly can you install this HTTP on VMware? No, there is a middleman who is this operating system. Without that, you don't have the drivers and many things are missing, right? Whereas this Docker engine does take care of everything. Not everything, few are needed, which will be taken care by the container. Now is where we need to call the container. So yeah, so this is the image. Okay, so let me take the same HTTP image. Why not just search for HTTP? The Apache official one will be here. Um, yeah, yeah. You see the Apache HTTP server project, the official one, right? So you just do Docker pull HTTPD. That's it. If you do that, it will download, and you see one more tag here, which is called as Alpine. So basically, it will. So any tool you use, it will be running on top of some operating system, and most of the Docker tools or Docker images run on along with the this OS. So this is also an image. You're getting the point, right? So this image is built on top of this Alpine, and it is bundled. And just by using this link, you are going to download and use it. Okay, so that's what. So here we are going to type HTTP image. Fine. So just like that, can I use this image? So just like that, can I use it? No. You need to create a container out of this image, which has all the required things, which is like libraries and drivers, whatever the OS does, right? This container, once you build, it does all the heavy lifting and it will create all these, right? So here there is a what is library and all we will discuss. Don't worry about it. But as of now, it's a supporting file for this image. Okay, so without this, this image is just another file or just an image or an document. Just like that, you can imagine any file, right? But there is no use of it. Only if there is a required libraries are satisfied and the required files are there, then only it can run. Libraries, drivers, all these must be satisfied. And this is called as contain. Okay, so you need to create a contain using this. So why or how easy it is? So here the size, let's calculate the size of this. So VMware tool itself is around, let's say 1 gig. Okay, and your OS, basically you are allocated 20 gigs actually we will allocate for the OS. Okay, on top of that HTTP, it is not huge one, but at least let's say 300 MB. Okay, so almost 22 gigs, approx 22 gigs are there. And let's say there is a new colleague, joining your team. Okay, so you need to basically set up their system also, right? So you need to create there is a VMware image you can create out of this. So instead of installing everything from scratch, you can combine these two layers and you can create your own image and you can share that to that individual as a template. He can simply clone it or mimic it and he can install in his new mission. Okay. So this file will be around the same, let's say 15 gigs or 15 plus gigs approx value. Okay. Now, what is the and this is the main reason companies prefer this. So the portability of your container or just an image, and basically again, here also you can create your own image. Let's say this is an dev environment. So dev image for web, web developer. Okay. So dev image for web dev. I'm going to share this one to uh, someone, the new colleague, right? So here it is just 300 MB. You're seeing the size difference, right? So it is just a fraction of this, but it does the same job. Here also you are having HTTP, and here also you are doing the same thing, but you're seeing the size difference, right? So that's the thing. And one major thing Docker engine does is here also the virtualization concept wise it is there, but it doesn't actually allocate. So here we literally allocate from this tool. Okay, so in VMware, you are allocating here, right? Whereas in Docker or any such container tools, you won't allocate. It automatically fetches from the base OS. Which one? Your system resource. Okay, so it will use all the CPU, memory, GPU, all these five system resource elements is used directly from your base. Understood? So that is also a good thing, right? So yeah. So basically, what this like in those days before VMware, they used to follow something, and VMware came and solved that issue. And containers also done the same thing, but in an effective way. So that's the containerization. Any doubts in this one? Understood? I didn't went too deep into the what is bare metal server or what is a cloud server. Nothing. Just a basic understanding of virtualization and containers. Okay. So now we are going to see how the industry best practice, as I mentioned before, is the combination of these both. Okay. So obviously few projects, which is a new project, let's say, it's right away created as an image. And you can even do that, guys. So if I search for HTTP, if I didn't selected this official, you might see some random names and some projects and NV Lab or something. You see why? Because it's created by someone, some random user created it, and he made it public. So even you can create your own uh, image, and you can push to the this hub. It's an open source community only, right? So literally anyone can post their own version of HTTP, and here, and anyone from the internet can download. Or if you want it to be private, only via link, you need to share. Also, you can do that via this Docker Hub. And if you're using in enterprise, obviously you need to pay for it, right? So there are few features for enterprise, but the obviously we are just an end user, right? There is no need for enterprise and all. So you can simply use this. Okay. So that's the concept wise containers and virtualization. So simply you can upload it here, Docker push, and it will be pushed here. Okay. And anyone from your team or from the internet, anyone can download and use your image. As simple as that. Whereas here also you can do, you need to upload it to some some place like this Google Drive or something, and you can do that. And it involves a fully fledged operating system, whereas here it is almost omitted, right? So yeah, understood. So that's how this one works. Okay, so let's move on to the next one, which is the actual agenda for today's uh, session, which is the booting process. So now, why booting process is an important one for any sysadmin? Because booting process does almost every which one every stage it goes through, right? So from the time you press the power button, what and all the stages, these are all the one. And is it the same for any system? Like even in your let's take a best example like coffee machine, right? So nowadays coffee machine is also having Android systems. Okay, so there is a dashboard, right? So in coffee machine, so that is actually your IoT or your Linux is also there. So it also goes through these process stages. Okay, so from an utility standpoint, that is also there, but even that uses the same procedure. So you must know this for sure, and it's common for any system nowadays. And even Windows uses the same. Obviously, few minor changes will be there, but on the whole, this is the booting process. So once you press the power button, what and all happens? Let me quickly explain via ping. Okay, so and hope you understood my way of flow because I might rush sometimes. So please do stop me and uh, let me know if I'm rushing too fast or something, or if I'm giving a session too slow. That also do let me know. Okay, that's the important thing. And yeah, so the very first thing is post. So basically, you're clicking the power on button, power on or off button, right? So once you press the power on, it goes through this post. What is post? It is called as power on self test. So again, what is that? So let's hold on for a moment and we will see the basic understanding of motherboard. Okay, just a sec. So why I'm specifically opening a B450 motherboard? Because I own this motherboard in my PC. So this is the one. Trying to get the yeah, yeah, this is a good image. Yeah. So let's quickly see. So again, this knowledge is not. Uh, it's not. It's you should not omit this. At least you should understand what are all the hardware components involved in any system, right? So even in your laptop, you will have the same hardware. And again, you have a basic idea about the system resources, right? CPU, memory, GPU, disk, and network. Obviously, everything will be here, and that's the core elements of your system, right? So firstly, this is where your CPU will be placed here, and these are all VRMs, so you can ignore these as of now. And this is where there are four slots, right? So this is DIMM slots, and it's for your memory, okay? And this is your power 24 pin connector for your motherboard. So this is what is very important cable. And here is also there is a power cables will be there. It's an 8-pin one, or 6 and 8-pin combination will be there. And this is basically your storage. That is, it's mentioned as M.2 shield, right? This is nothing but your M.2 based storage. So now, while we are talking about the storage, so what is this? This? Can someone put it in the chat? What are all the two types of storage? and even TD. What is SST, HDD, and TD? Anyone? It can be wrong, guys, obviously, right? So no one can be right at every time, right? So please answer, at least we should make this as an interactive session, okay? So it can be wrong, no issues. I'm not, or anyone is not judging or evaluating you, right? So feel free to answer anything you, if you know already, please do answer it. Yeah, solid state drive. Perfect. What is HDD? TD, let me answer that. So it is tape drive, and HDD is hard disk drive. Perfect. So yeah. So these three are the ways, or these three are the types of disk we are going to save it. Which one? Your data, right? So, and from which, again, I am arranged in a hierarchy from the costliest to the least amount you're going to spend to save your data. So SSD, what is that? So basically, this is an SSD. M.2 shield, it is mentioned, right? So if you see SSD versus HDD, you see the size difference. Again, here, and don't think that, okay, these are all are not at all related to Linux. You must know at least the basic hardware. That's a mandatory thing, right? So yeah, so this is your hard disk. Okay, there will be literally a hard disk inside, physical disk. Platelets will be there, right? So sorry, there is a spindle and plates, like it will be there, and there is an actuator, and this will move in a very too fast. It will be, so even now, if you're using a hard disk, you might hear that sound. So basically, that sound, once you hear while your system is booting and all, it's nothing but the actuator sound. It is spinning, and this actuator is looking for an indentation. So what is that? It's a like this. So basically, any data you store in your machine, it's just an indentation of data. So this is, what is a machine language? Can someone put it in the chat? If you already know, please do put it. What is a machine language? Like this only, it will be like kind of a ridges, or it is, anyone, machine language? It is nothing but bits and bytes. Yeah, exactly. So, but it's nothing but ones and zeros, right? So your binaries. So if you see an indentation, this is one and this is zero. So this is one, this is zero. This is again one. Here it is zero, and here it is zero. Like that. Even this paint, or even this anything, any image, or literally anything you do in your machine is like this. It will be huge arrays, or even billions of ones and zeros it will be. So that's what machine can understand. So we understand these things, numbers or letters or words, right? Machine doesn't do that. It is just a numbers till now. Okay. So yeah, that's how it is. And that's what your actuator is trying to read very fastly. Okay. So that's the hard disk, because there is a, physically there is something spinning. Whereas SSD, it's a chip. There is a PCB, and the one huge issue with SSD is there is a certain read and write time. Uh, so there is a limitation here. So here, this can spin forever, and there it might get slow over period of time, but not like within 2 years it won't be slow. It will take at least 15 years or even more than that. right? So the processing time might be a bit slow, whereas SSD, it might be at least 7 to 8 years, it might degrade. Okay, so that's a huge issue with SSD, especially the SATA SSD. It is a huge issue. And then there is one more SSD called as M.2 SSD. M.2 NVMe SSD is also there. And you see, it is as same as your RAM, right? So your memory is like this, right? So, and I'm using this one, A data. Yeah, Phantom. So this is the SSD I am using. So yeah, this is the slot we will place it. Okay. So that's the this. And which is the fastest storage? M.2 PCIe 6 or yeah, 6 is not yet production. Gen 5 is still around. Okay, so Gen 6 is only for enterprises. Gen 5 is for commercial use. So you can use that. And it will be the speed difference is huge, guys. Okay. Your hard disk can process maximum of 600 to 700 MB per second, right? Whereas your any M.2 SSD, NVMe SSD, right? It can perform maximum of 3 gigs to 8 gigs. You see the potential, right? So that's how huge the difference is, the speed difference. Again, what is NVMe, SATA, everything we'll discuss. Not now. While we install, we'll discuss those. Okay. So don't think these are all not related to IT or such. These are all the actual core IT. You must know all these. Since you are obviously we are very new to all these. If you are a fresher or you are non-IT, then you must know these. Okay, so that's the thing. And if you are already working, please hold on. It's just a refresh for you if you're already working. Okay, so this is the PCIe slots. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there is around 5 slots are there. And this is the GPU. So your GPU will be placed here. And this is your sorry, CMOS battery. And yeah, there are so many connectors here, right? So all are related to your input, output, your cabinet, and everything. Okay, fine. So these are all your I/O, like your USB drive. Everything will be under here, and this is your Wi-Fi. You're getting the point, right? So that's how your motherboard looks, exactly like this, but without these LEDs, or it won't be as this much spacious in your servers. So if I show you the server grade HP or Dell rack servers, it will be like this. Okay, so obviously it will be a bit costly compared to your basic one, but it will be a huge array of machines. Same thing, but in an effective way, it will be stored. Because storage is an issue, right? So each square feet you need to pay a huge hefty amount in your data centers, right? So yeah, like this it will be your Dell Power Edge. So this is a very famous one. Even now, almost every companies will at least have one of this lying around, right? So from HP or Dell, these are all the major players: HP, Dell, Intel, right? So yeah. So that's the rack server, but the components will be the same. Just here, since it is commercialized, it will be bit. This is an ATX structure. There is a mini ATX which is the same thing, but it will be cramped. The size will be bit small, and mini IATX is also there, which is even smaller. Right? So yeah, it will be smaller than your 14-inch laptop, even smaller. That right. So yeah. Fine. So let's go back and do this. So we saw post, right? So what in post it happens is it will literally send a small voltage of current to all these components: CPU, memory, your hard disk, GPU, right? All this IO related stuff, everything will be receiving that power. And if it is not receiving, then there is a hardware issue. So here itself, it will be stuck. You're getting the point, right? So from the first stage itself, it will be stuck. So that's the reason it is testing that. So once it is passed, let's say the power is passed through all the components, then you will move on to the next stage, which is again an important stage. It's called as BIOS. What is BIOS full form? It is basic input output system. Now, as the name suggests, it is in the BIOS itself, it's like input output, right? Input slash output system, right? So basically, you need to have all the information will be stored here. What are all the information? Let me show you the one in my machine system, the MSI BIOS screen. So this is how, in my case, since it is a gaming uh, motherboard, you are going to see like this view, right? But in your enterprise or anywhere, you will be seeing a BIOS screen, Phoenix or Blue. Yeah, Phoenix BIOS. Like this, a standard, and both has the same thing. Okay, so here it's not too fancy and having a lot of options, just the same thing, but it will be bit pleasing and easily you can understand it here, whereas here it might be some options might be hiding in some menu, right? But here it is straightforward. So you're having all the system related information like your CPU speed, and it will be measured via your frequency, guys, right? So your it will be megahertz or gigahertz, right? So again, you can increase and decrease these. Obviously, no one will decrease it, but they will increase it to get the full potential of your machine, right? So 3.6 is a very a nominal one, and you can go till 4.2 or 4.3 like that if your CPU allows it. Okay, so it's not like every CPU allows it. Certain CPUs, and in AMD, almost many CPUs allows it. In Intel, there is a restriction as expected by Intel, so they don't want you to get the full potential of it. Okay, and your product information like your actual motherboard one, CPU info, memory info. So here itself you're having the info, and easily you can understand. Okay, these are all detected. Once again, you can verify it from this information. Not only that, BIOS is used for obviously the increasing the frequency, and that terminology is overclocking. Okay, so we're going to increase the clock time or this frequency for your CPU, right? So obviously, if you increase this frequency, what happens? The power draw or the power used by that component will increase. And one more huge thing is your temperature. All that info is also stored here. So whenever there is an operation in any such hardware, there will be a heat dissipation. Okay, so heat dissipation will be there, and it must be controlled at any time. So all that information will be there. Okay, and the most important one here is your boot priority. Okay, boot, boot priority on, which is, let's say SSD, sorry, HDD is what you're going to boot first. Next thing is SSD. Next thing is your CD drive, CD or DVD, and removable disk. Like this, we are having a lot of input output devices. But which one to be prioritized first? And which is bootable? Let's say you're literally you bought a new SSD today. Whether you can call it a boot disk? No, it must be configured to be booted to something, right? So you can't put simply and call it a day, right? So you need to make sure which is bootable and why it is bootable. Then only the system can understand, right? So yeah. So firstly, this is the important one, and your system information is also there in your BIOS. Okay, let's say you selected hard disk, and the next one is NBR. So here it is mentioned as NBR, but actually it is called as partition style. Okay, so it is called as NBR. The full form of NBR is master boot record. Okay, so now what is that? And yeah, it's already time. Please stick with me for another at least 10 minutes. And we won't complete the whole thing for sure. It will take time. But yeah, at least I will complete this NBR and we can call it a day. Okay. Yeah. So let me go to the disk management here. So let's say you selected the hard disk. Till now, your OS is booting fine. So in the hard disk, what is this NBR is? There are two types of partition style guys. So how we are going to approach this disk? That's an important one, right? So there is a boot sector. Okay. Now, again, what is a sector? So that's a new info for you, right? So there is an imaginary line in your hard disk. Let's say I'm just dividing it into 8 pieces, but it can be more than that. But yeah, let me do this. Let's say this is the first sector I'm going to use. So this sector should have the boot file. What is that boot file? It is the next step, which we will see in a moment. But this boot sector, how it is fetched and what are all the informations are in the NBR, right? So basically, just like that, your hard disk can't be used. It must be partitioned and it must be formatted to a certain format. It is either NTFS or it can be some other XFS, EXT, EXT4, expat. Like, it's a huge list, okay? File system itself is around 30 plus majorly used, right? So, but in Windows, obviously, you have NTFS, and literally it is called as new type file system. That's the full form of NTFS, new type file system. Okay. So now there is a thing here. What is the type of your partition style? So I just right click this disk and went to the volumes, and here you see one interesting info. It is called as GUID partition table. So basically, there are two types of partition style. One is GPT, another one is MBR. Which is the latest one? Not MBR. GPT is the latest one. It is called as GUID partition table. Okay. And MBR full form is master boot record. Now, what is the difference or the major difference between these two? So GPT, right? It is not. It's been around again. It's not like too latest or too um, how to say compared to MBR. It is latest. Let's put it in that way. So GPT is majorly used in your Windows because that's how. Or you might have never heard of this GPT or MBR ever. And it's not like, okay, whether I can go back to MBR or something. See here, option here, it is grayed out, right? Because currently I'm online, means this disk is utilized. So if I'm offline, and that is also grayed out because it's currently serving the machine, right? Let's say if it is not serving, you can actually convert it into MBR, or if you're having a third-party tool, it can do it. So while the system is booting, before the disk is booted, it need to do this, convert to MBR disk. You can do that. So firstly, what is MBR and GPT? right? So MBR or GPT. So this is what will fixate your sector size. So you are basically segregating or partitioning the disk, right? There is a disk of 500 gigs. So just like that, you can't use the whole 500 gigs. Even that you can do. You can create a single partition and use it and call it a day. But still, you're going to use and partitions like this. You see, I have a 160 MB, which is not being used anywhere because there is no use of this 160 MB till now, right? But that still exists in the same disk. Like that, I have an important partition, which is C partition. For Windows, it is an important one. Like that, I have D. You're getting the point, right? So like that, there is a one more empty partition. So the point is, you need to partition and format it to the specific file system. And the partitioning, right? That time there is a blocks. So each and every data in your system is called as blocks, right? So I might have mentioned earlier it is ones and zeros for the mission, but even the same mission, the data it will look it as a block. Let's say an image, it might be, for example, it is 5 blocks, let's say, and document might be 8 blocks, just for an understand. And movie, which you have saved in your mission, can be of let's say 200 blocks. You're getting the point, right? So that's how the machine will understand it. But yeah, so that's the blocks, right? So you need to um, give the GPT or MBR, which one is preferred. Obviously, in Windows, by default, without your intervention, it will be installing GPT. Whereas in your Linux or any such old machines, let's say Solaris or uh, your IBM AX and Minix or very old machines, right? So those are all called as legacy machines. Those use only MBR, which is backward compatibility, and literally it supports almost any machines till now. MBR, including Windows. Even Windows, you can install MBR from the start itself, right? So again, how many partitions are allowed? That's the important thing. And here it is called as primary partition and yeah, extended partition. We don't go too deep into that. Okay, so but as of now, the major difference you will see here it is. We will see this extensively once in our disk management session. So this is 128 primary partition and GPT is 128, MBR is 4 primary. You see the difference, right? Right away. So each disk, again, this is not the entirety of your mission. Each disk, you can create 128 partitions like this. This is one. Like this, you can create 128 in the same disk, right? Whereas in your uh, MBR, you can create only four. In only that is enough? No, there is a thing called an extended partition, which we will discuss. Not now. We will discuss while we see the disk management. Okay, so why I brought that up is this is part of the booting process. Okay, so here itself it is decided this booting, this first disk which is booted, right? It will have that MBR or not. And so if obviously it will be MBR and it will select the which is the boot sector in that MBR and it will boot to the file. What is that file? It is the next step, which is called as grub. And that grub is called as Grand Unified Bootloader. And there is a bootloader for any mission ever. As I mentioned, IoT or any mission site, it need to know which one to be booted. It will be just like a simple document, right? So it need to understand that is there any index or is there any introduction or summary. You're getting the point, right? So it need that instructions. So there will be an instruction set for each and every which one? Operating system. Operating system is also an application at the end of the day, guys. It's a huge application. So you have a Chrome. Chrome is an application. It's a web browser, but it's an application exactly like that. Your whole operating system itself is a huge application. It's just all the things. But at the end of the day, it's just an application as per the mission, right? So it treats like that only. So it needs some instruction to be followed. So what is that instruction and what is grub? Those things we will see in the next session because it's already time. Okay. So again, uh, what we discussed for the day is firstly, what is the difference between virtualization and containers? And this you must understand, guys. And please do let me know if you're really having any doubts in tomorrow's session. Okay, so just go through this and go through the recording as well. And do let me know if you're having hard time understanding this, because without this basic understanding you will have hard time. And in your companies, let's say you onboard to a company, no one have the patience to train these basics, guys. That's the harsh truth. Okay, so let's say you are a fresher, that's the harsh truth. Okay, so no one has the patience to explain all the basic things. What is virtualization? No one does. They will just introduce you to VMware, and not even installation part they will explain. So they will just right away, it will be already installed in your machine. You're just going to use it. So take it as a not challenge, it's a necessity, right? You must know these. If you really want to be exceptional in your sysadmin path, career path, you need to understand these. Okay. So yeah. So if you're fine with my way of training, so kindly enroll for the batch. Okay, so uh, yeah, let me click the link. So again, this session's recording will be in the YouTube channel. Let me give the YouTube channel's link also. So yeah, yeah, you see, it's raised, right? So like this, today's one also will be uploaded. Fine. So is there any doubts in the session, guys? So we saw the difference between virtualization and containers, and we initiated this booting procedure, and still we are in progress. We will do the rest tomorrow, and the installation part I will try to cover tomorrow session itself. Any doubts? Anyone? Vasan or Mani, Patel, and Mani joined twice. Okay. Any audio issue or something, Mani? You joined two sessions, are they? Fine, no problem. So yeah, let's see on tomorrow session, guys. Then, okay, if there is no doubts. Yeah, okay then. Awesome. So yeah, thanks all then. Have a good one. Let's see you tomorrow at the same time. Okay, bye bye.